Hello, welcome to the Warframe Collective. So you want to hit focus cap, man. There's certain things in Warframe you got to go out of your way to do for yourself, and getting focus is one of them. You're probably getting to that point where you're like, I need to start hitting focus cap, I need to do this for myself, You want to be a big boy, I understand, you want to hang with the big boys. You want the Bomba. You want the G with the big boys. I get it. Well, today we're going to show you two of the best methods to hit focus cap in Warframe. And the first one we're going to start is with Equinox, right? We're going to use our Sleepquinox build to where we have maximum range and a decent efficiency if you can. But if you have Arcane Energized, it can negate that. And we're going to also use the Glaive Prime. And we're going to be heading to Andaro on Sedna. Now, it's best if you use Equinox's augment to where if you kill a sleeping enemy, it spreads to another enemy. But I don't think I have that augment on. I think that's the Rest and Rage augment. And I'm just going to show you guys it's possible to do it without that augment. And the reason I posted this run is because it's not perfect. It is scuffed. But at the end of the day, it shows you exactly what you need. And it shows you that you don't have to be a perfect stealth Warframe in order to get good results when you're doing this focus form. Basically, what you want to do is you just want to put every enemy you see to sleep, and as soon as you know that all enemies in the immediate area are asleep, you want to throw your glaive and make it explode so you get that explosion damage bonus, and you get your stealth affinity bonus. You want to try to get that stealth affinity bonus all the way to 5 and maintain that as much as possible. And when you see those yellow glowing orbs, it's pretty vital that you grab those, but at the same time, you have to make sure the enemies don't spot you. So you want to make sure all the enemies in the area are asleep before you go for the focus orb. And once again, guys, the reason I posted this run is because it's not perfect. It is scuffed. I'm not one of those players that's great at all the stealth aspects of Warframe, but if you're one of those players that's great at stealth in Warframe, you're most likely going to get much better results than I got. But I want to show you, even if you're not one of those guys that's good at stealth, you can still do pretty decent on this run. There are several times throughout the run where I end up getting spotted by enemies and I lose my stealth bonus and I kind of have to reset myself. There are several times in the match where I actually end up running out of energy and I end up having to pop a energy restore. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can and try to be as careful as you can. And the reason you want to make sure everyone is asleep with your Sleepquinox build is because the stealth system in Warframe is actually pretty intuitive to where if you kill an enemy and one of these Grineer fucks sees it, they're gonna be like, Soga, boga, and start looking around and shit, right? It's a lot more intuitive than you'll see in other games. So it's really important you make sure all the enemies in the vicinity are asleep. Also, when you're doing this run, the game has a nasty tendency of spawning the focus orb behind a room full of enemies, and you have to make sure all of those enemies are asleep so that way you can stealth past them while you still have your stealth bonus, get the focus orb, and get that massive focus multiplier that the focus orb provides. This focus form used to be better back in the day. I would originally credit it to Brozyme. He posted a run of him doing it with the Guandao a long time ago. But the thing is, with the inclusion of Eximus enemies, it makes this run not as effective because Eximus enemies aren't typically affected by Warframe abilities until you take down that Overshield. But I would not worry about the Eximus as long as you're putting enemies to sleep and killing the Eximus before they even notice you. You shouldn't have too much of a problem. So as you can see right here, I run out of energy and I don't even realize it because I'm just kind of on autopilot, right? So I just pop 2 energy restores and Ideally, you want to do this before your stealth multiplier runs out, but it would appear that I don't even have a stealth affinity bonus right now, so I don't even really worry about it. I just proceed with the run once I get some energy. And as you can see right here, in a room full of enemies, they spawn the focus orb, so I make sure all these guys are asleep before I go in. I got the door blocking me, but yeah, I make sure all these guys are asleep, and I proceed to kill as many enemies in the room as I can before the focus orb runs out, while maintaining that stealth affinity bonus. And like I said, guys, I suck at all of the stealth aspects of Warframe, so if you're one of those players that are a lot better than me, you're gonna have better results on this run, and it's probably gonna be the most optimal way for you to farm focus. But if you're one of those guys that just absolutely suck at stealth and you don't even want to do this, there is another way I'm going to show you guys. And as you guys saw at the beginning of the video, if you guys looked at the requirements, I'm not even running any Eidolon lenses on this. I'm just running greater lenses on Equinox as well as my Glaive. But yeah, we're just kind of cruising along, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but that Arcane Energize is keeping me really topped off. If you don't have Arcane Energize, you don't have to use Arcane Energize. You can just drop these energy pads, and as you can see right here, my focus orb spawns in an awkward area, right? So I gotta make sure all these guys are asleep before I go up here to get the orb. But unfortunately, I slip up right here and I kind of screw myself, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna kill these guys and I'm gonna keep on going, you know? But yeah, if you don't have an Arcane Energize, as long as you have some energy restores, you can always drop those and then just keep on moving, you know? So don't get too discouraged. As you can see, I have to drop a few energy restores, and I'm trying to do it quick before my stealth multiplier runs out. Unfortunately, I'm not really fast enough because it does run out pretty quickly after this. And I believe I'm spotted right now, so that kind of sucks. But like I said, this is not a perfect run by any means, but I'm doing my best, and that's all that matters. And we're still getting some pretty decent focus on this run. So back in the day when you used to do this, once you killed the correct number of enemies, no more enemies would spawn on the map, so you would just be stuck running to extraction. But luckily they've changed it so enemies always spawn, so even after all the enemies are defeated, make sure you keep maintaining your stealth and being careful, grabbing those focus orbs and killing all these enemies. As you can see right here, we've pretty much completed the mission, but I'm gonna keep going, and this is actually gonna be one of the best focus runs I get right here. A lot of this comes down to RNG, because when it comes down to it, if you have bad enemy placement, you're not gonna get as much focus as you would if you were able to get all the enemies grouped up. But even then, right, as long as you're quick on your feet, you can still kill a decent amount of enemies. As you can see right here, I don't get a tremendous amount, but I get a few, and I end up getting like 31K on this one. So yeah. On the next one, after we complete this part of the mission, we're gonna hit Sanctuary Onslaught. And there's one thing I want to show you before I show you the actual run, because a lot of people don't like to communicate with other players, so they're likely to just randomly queue up. I'm gonna show you what's likely to happen if you just randomly queue up, as opposed to if you actually take an extra 5 minutes to put together a squad. So as you can see, we have completed the mission at this point, and We completed it in under 10 minutes. And so when you tally up the amount of focus that we've managed to accumulate during that run, I'd say we got roughly 120k focus in 8 minutes. So if you do the math, 120k focus in 10 minutes is equivalent to 360 in 30 minutes. So if you're strictly running this method, you'll max out your focus in under an hour. Next, we're gonna hit ESO and we're gonna be running Mirage. And listen, you can run whatever gear you want as long as you have greater lenses in all the gear you plan on using, right? So, as far as ESO goes, if you queue with random people, this is likely to be your experience. As we queue up, as you can see, the host connection drops and I get sent right back to the relay. And when I finally do get into a mission, but apparently a lot of these guys aren't even prepared to go to Zone 8. And so that's why you have to be careful when you random queue. So the first round in Zone 1 is pretty much just a warm-up round. You will not get a focus orb in Zone 1. But once you reach Zone 2, at the start of every new zone, you'll get a focus orb that lasts for 45 seconds. So at this point, you want to run around and you want to kill as many enemies as possible, as fast as possible before the time limit is up. This is why it's so important to be running good gear that you can kill enemies with as fast as possible. And you can also just run 1 or 2 weapons, you know, take off your melee, or just run a melee and a primary, or a melee and a secondary, and just get focus for those 2 weapons. But I'm just running focus lenses and everything, considering the fact that I do have greater lenses for all my gear. But if you remember back to the first run we did with Equinox, you'll remember that we only had greater lenses in Equinox and a greater lens in the Glaive Prime. So once again, as Zone 3 starts, the host migrates. And the thing that sucks about the host migration is the timer is actually still ticking down. It doesn't reset itself. So now I wind up in a situation where I don't have 45 seconds to accumulate as much focus as possible. I only have about 23 seconds. And this Eximus dude right here really pisses me off, right? This dude is an asshole. This guy knocks me down. And I know there's gonna be some prime short-footed mains in the comments that's like, oh yeah, of course he did. That's why we run prime short-footed, bro. I know, I have prime short-footed and I'm not hating. I'm just not one of those prime short-footed players. But yeah, he not only knocked me down, but in the next round at the same spot, that fool knocked me down again. But as you can see, I hit Zone 4. And as I start killing these enemies to try to accumulate as much focus as possible, what I eventually noticed is the AI seems to pause. And usually when the AI pauses in the game, that means the host is about to migrate. So right here, I notice I'm not doing any damage to this bombard. So I come and look at him and bam, host migration, bitch. So yeah, this is the experience when you queue up with randos. This is why you don't queue with randos. So luckily when the host migrates this time, right, it actually does reset the focus clock a little bit. But I don't even bother getting mad this time. I was kind of pissed before, but now I just kind of let out a lull in the chat because I already kind of knew what the experience was going to be like queuing with random people. But I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was talking about in the video. So I'm like, I'm gonna queue up anyway with these randoms. At this point, it's just me and another Mirage left. And I can tell that this dude is not prepared to go to Zone 8, or he probably wasn't prepared to go past Zone 4. He's just going because I'm kind of rushing ahead like a chicken with my head cut off. But the beautiful thing about everybody leaving is I actually do end up getting some pretty good focus this round because this space is so cramped and everybody has left the area. So it kind of ends up being, hey, more kills for me. But unfortunately, I can tell that the other Mirage player is struggling. So after we do complete this zone, I didn't want to drag him through the fire, so I don't go any further because I could tell this dude wasn't even prepared to go this far. But this is the experience when you queue up with random people. And I'm not hating on my other fellow Warframe players, but that's the thing. That's why this is a random queue, because they can jump out anytime they want to, you know? You random queue because you're not prepared to go to Zone 8. So the thing is, if you decide to not put together a squad, don't be surprised when you only end up going to like Zone 3 or Zone 4 before you're by yourself. And the thing is, when you're focus farming, it's a lot easier when you have multiple players. Even though you guys are competing for kills, you get to take advantage of their Warframe abilities to stay alive. As you can see, this dude isn't budging at all, right? So I don't force him, you know? I just throw up a GG in the chat and me and this guy make our way out of here because I can tell he's not prepared to go any further. So that focus run took me roughly 15 to 20 minutes, and as you can see, I only end up getting about 75,000 focus queuing with random players. That's horrible. 15 to 20 minutes considering the fact that in 8 minutes with Equinox we're able to accumulate 120,000 focus. Now I'm gonna throw off the Ignis, and once again guys, I got greater lenses on all my gear. Make sure you have greater lenses on all the gear that you plan on using. And this is what you do. You go into the recruiting chat, you type hosting ESO Zone 8, and you just wait. And as you can see, I already got people trying to come into the match. So I invite this guy and he comes immediately. And in less than about 5 minutes, I'm able to put together an entire squad. This is how Zone 8 ESO is meant to be played, because when you queue up with random people, you don't know what their intentions are. And I understand if you're one of those people that are kind of shy and you don't like to really do the whole chat section. But the thing is, when you go into the recruiting chat and you simply recruit 3 more players, it's a lot easier because everybody that you recruited wants to be here and they know what they're getting themselves into. So remember, at the start of every round, make sure you run around and kill as many enemies as possible. And these Eximus enemies, if you see these Eximus enemies, prioritize those guys, because I believe when you kill the Eximus, there's like a focus multiplier. I don't know if it's 2 times or 3 times the amount of focus as normal enemies. If you're one of the players in the chat that knows the exact multiplier that Eximus kills give you, you can go ahead and sound off. But make sure you prioritize those Eximus guys, because those guys give you a ton of focus. And the thing about playing with a good squad of people is everybody is using a decent build. As you can see, we got about 15,000 focus right there. But remember what I said before, you're competing with everybody else for kills. So remember that. So yeah, we hit Zone 3, and remember, prioritize these Eximus enemies. And at one point, right, I see an Eximus enemy over here, so I go to take his ass out, and this dude is the same dude from the last round that knocked me down in the same spot with the same abilities. So yeah, F that guy. But you know what? I shouldn't even be complaining, because those guys got nothing on the Flame Eximus. Those Flame Eximus that are just like, ooh, and let out that big ass flame wall in all directions. Those guys are my Achilles heel. I've been put down so many times by those dudes when I've bent around the corner and those dudes just hit me with that flame wall. I've been put down so many times by those guys. So we did good. We got about roughly 30,000 focus that round. So once again, at the start of every round, pop whatever abilities you need, run around and start killing everything as fast as possible. You got about 45 seconds to make a huge difference. But remember, you're competing with everybody else for kills, so make sure you're hogging as many kills as fast as possible. And this focus run is much more painless than the stealth focus run if you're not good at stealthing. If you're not good at stealthing, this is the focus farm you need to be doing. And as you can see, we do really well right here. We get roughly like, I want to say almost 50,000 focus right there. So yeah, as the zones go on, you're gonna be accumulating more and more focus. So keep that in mind. As the enemies get tougher, as long as you're able to keep killing enemies in a timely manner, you're gonna be accumulating more and more focus per round. So much so that at a certain point in this round, I actually end up hitting focus cap, and I didn't even realize it, but I end up hitting focus cap. And I even go into the chat and I ask some of the other players if they're still getting a focus orb, and they say yeah, they're still getting a focus orb. So yeah, I end up hitting cap right there. But even if you hit cap, you know, keep playing as hard as possible, because your team is still relying on you to keep up the killing efficiency. That way you guys can make it to zone 8. But yeah, since I end up hitting focus cap in zone 5, obviously I didn't get to show off the full effectiveness of ESO. So what I do is I just post some cuts showing you what you would have gotten if you had went directly to ESO, and cut out the Equinox farm and the random person farm altogether. And the thing about zone 8 ESO is you guys can keep going past zone 8, but the thing about going past zone 8 is it's so hard to keep up the killing efficiency that it's just not really worth it for most players. So most players usually don't even want to go past zone 8. They just want to stop right here. So as you can see, we complete zone 8, we throw up GG's to the squad, and bam, we obtain mission completion. So as you can see, when we tally up all the focus that we accumulated from that match, we got 170, roughly 175k, which is pretty good. But remember, we hit focus cap in zone 5. So as you can see, our daily focus cap is at 0, and we really have no more focus that we can cash in on for today. I got kind of negligent showing you guys what we can do if we queue with randos, and I kind of forgot about the amount of focus that I was capped on. But what I'm gonna do right here is I'm just gonna come back tomorrow when our focus has been restored and we have more focus to accumulate. And I'm just gonna show you guys a quick supercut of what you would have accumulated had you went directly to ESO to begin with without the Equinox farm. So as you guys can see, I have about 167 standing that I can still accumulate for today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put together a squad and we're gonna go back to ESO, and bam, This is roughly what you would have accumulated had you gone directly to ESO with a decent squad. Roughly 220,000 focus. So these Zone 8 runs on ESO don't take more than 25 minutes. Usually 25 minutes is the maximum amount of time it will take you to get to Zone 8. And if you're accumulating 220 focus in 25 minutes, then you will hit focus cap in less than an hour just doing ESO. So bam, guys, that is focus cap in less than an hour. Hey guys, thank you for listening to me ramble on like an idiot. If you found anything in the video helpful and you don't absolutely abhor my voice, please like and subscribe so we can grow the collective. But for now, please just have a beautiful day.